Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learning with Faith. One of your hosts. I slept Celadon. My stage name is Sachi Ice Queen. I am a poet, international bilingual best-selling author, award-winning business owner for my translation interpretation business. And today we have a very special guest. We met Ken at Dr. Rob's conference, so it was pretty awesome to get to meet amazing individuals like him and get to hear from him. So that was pretty cool. I saw some pictures that he posted with John Maxwell. So that was awesome to see because my mom would always listen to him growing up. Whenever I was growing up, she would always read all his books. And so it was pretty cool to see that. But the person that's going to be introducing him a little bit more is our co-host. Not only is he a comedian, but he also does these podcast episodes with me. We've known each other for about 2 years and we're newlyweds. So
Come on, girl.
we always like talking about, our process to things and what we went through. And today we have a very special episode for all the fathers. It was just recently Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. It was also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we definitely wanted to hold space for you guys and have this episode specifically for you guys. And so that's the reason why he's going to get to be interviewing you. And so without further ado, definitely want to introduce my husband, the modern day Noah.
Hey guys, how's it going? So, first off, we want to take a couple minutes and, we want to thank our sponsors that has been sponsoring our events and our shows. Cricket Wireless, Xfinity Mobile, First Community Bank. We've also been sponsored with O'Reilly's and a couple of other different big brands. I've been hosting car shows so far throughout the summer. We actually just finished up our second annual car show yesterday, and we have about another 4 to 5 more planned before the end of October. Also, I always want to throw it in there for those who are watching, to our loving and faithful viewers. Be sure to also join us in September, as we will be attending a woman named Gigi. She is hosting a domestic violence conference, which I have the pleasure of being able to speak at. I'm one of I think the only men, aside from one other guy, that will be sharing our stories. We first met Ken. It was, I believe, in May, and we met him at Dr. Rob Kelly's conference, his Neuro Hero for 2024, and we got to see Dr. Rob. We got to see Adam. And then we met this lovely man, Ken. I have never seen such big energy like I give off in such a long time. And so it was definitely an awesome time. We spent 2 days together. We got to reminisce in faith with each other. We got to share our journey so far with each other. Ken has had an amazing journey thus far, especially with his new podcast movement that he's got rolling. He is making faithful headway out there along the East Coast and the Midwest. So first, we're going to go ahead and start off with some of the questions we got, and then we'll do some personal Q&A and some reminiscing at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you been speaking on faith professionally, and how did it shape you as a father?
Well, number one, let me say thanks for being on your show. I'm honored. I'm always honored anytime I get an opportunity to be with friends who are just walking out purpose, that really have a desire and a passion to take what God's done in their life and in their marriage, like you guys, newlyweds, in everything that you do. I love how you just bring the business into your faith. I've been speaking since about 2 months after I gave my life to Christ in August 22nd, 1993. I believe it was October the 3rd. It was a Sunday night. They said, hey, share your testimony. So I got up in front of, I don't know, a few hundred people and shared my testimony. So that was the first time. So that had been October the 3rd of 1993. And so from then, Probably 8, 9 months later, they said, hey, you need to teach a discipleship class for high school students. I had about 6 of them. And I started doing that, and we grew that from 6 to several dozen in about a year. And then we planted a church, and they said, hey, you need to be the youth pastor. And I'm like, I have no idea how to be a youth pastor. They said, but you're the guy. And so I started that, and I was the worst youth pastor in America for about a year. And then I started meeting some amazing people in my life. And we grew that youth ministry from, I don't know, a dozen kids to several hundred. And I quickly had one of the largest youth ministries in America. So I'm speaking every Wednesday night to them at that time because of what God was really doing in our ministry. It gave me an opportunity to go around the country and speak, to do leadership talks. I was in front of hundreds and thousands of people, youth pastors, senior pastors, leaders in the church, business leaders in the community, just communicating, sharing what God had put on my heart. From there till, 4 years ago, I spent 6 years being a full-time senior pastor, planting and pastoring churches in the Atlanta area. And then 4 years ago, I said, you know what? I'm going to start this thing called Grow Stack Dry, GSD for short. And I'm going to go after faith-based entrepreneurs. I'm going to help them become the best version of themselves in their faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. So I've been speaking a long time. And you said, how does that affect my family? That's a great question. I'll tell you one of the best compliments I ever got from my family was my daughter used to drive me home. So when I was senior pastor in the church from 2009 to about 16, 17, every Sunday I'd preach 2 services, hundreds of people. And man, when I'm done, bro, I'm white. Like I'm, meeting new guests and hugging babies and talking to leaders and doing all the stuff and making sure everything goes well. And my daughter took me home. One of my daughters would always drive me home after the second service. And she looked at me one day. She goes, Dad, you know what I love about you? And I said, what's that, baby? She said, you're the same dad at home as you are on stage at church on Sunday. And so I don't know that the way I communicate or the amount of time I've been speaking had an effect at home any greater than my kids could see that the same dad that was on the stage on Sunday was the same dad that was at home.
Wow.
That definitely hits hard. Hits home really, really hard. It in my opinion, it affected me a little differently. I walked into into being married with Isleth and taking on her son, and I've always called him my own. We don't use the step word here. We use mom and dad. Yeah. It definitely wasn't easy shoes to fill, having an absent father in his life. So I would like to say that I had to put him back together with glue and duct tape, because I mean he's kind of broken down because his father he's just never there for him. And so he's, since I've met him, has leaned towards me for that emotional and physical guidance. And for the people who are just having kids, or for new fathers, or people jumping into new marriages, definitely don't get overwhelmed, because it's not going to all come to you right then. My dad's almost 60 years old, and he'll tell you that he's still learning things. And all of us, we're all grown, and he's still learning things about us every day.
Yeah.
But spiritually, I've always been able to stay there with my son and try to lead him and his mother to the path of righteousness, leading them down the path that a husband and a father are supposed to. Says in the Bible, I don't remember the exact verse. I need to get back into my Bible and pop it back open, but it says that the father and the husband are to lead their family unto redemption and righteousness. Supposed to lead them down a certain path. That way they can prosper under the kingdom of God. And when a lot of people will ask, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that you need practically to step up. You need to do as God has instructed you to do. You need to keep your faith. You need to stay strong, stay vigilant, because around every corner, there's always something that is willing to tempt your fatherhood
Mhm,
and your,
mhm.
your husbandhood. So that leads into the next question. When it comes to marriage, why are people struggling so much, in your opinion?
Um, Let me say this. I've never seen a couple where both individuals had self-awareness and had a growth mindset. They literally were on the pursuit of becoming the best version of themselves. I've never seen a couple like that in all my years of business, in all my years of ministry, in all my years of doing what I'm doing now. And I can go back 30 plus years. I've never seen a couple like that not thrive in their marriage, ever, not one time. But if you have a marriage where one person refuses to get better or refuses to look at something that's going on in their life, I've never seen that marriage thrive. It either doesn't make it or it's a floundering marriage and not a very good, I would say, a very good role model for the community or their own children. But it really all comes down to the individuals in the marriage. And, in a marriage, it has to be one to where you are, what can I do to get better? How can I help you do this? How can I help you feel safe? How can I help you feel more loved? How can I communicate with you in such a way where there's a connection and you're able to hear my heart? Not you did this and it made me feel this way. You did it, any time that happens, that marriage is going to struggle. And we see it. I mean, the divorce rate in the church is equal to the divorce rate outside the church. So it's not even a thing of why are they struggling? That's an easy answer. One or more of the people in a marriage aren't very growth mindset. They're not very self-aware. They literally are like, they will almost hold a wall up. It's not me. You're not touching anything. And that goes back into, boy, that's a whole podcast episode. That goes back into a lot of, and what I've seen and what I saw in my own life, a lot of childhood trauma that is undetected. And so I think that's a huge part as well.
Oh yeah, that is very, very good point. Because I mean, both of us have been married before,
Mhm.
and so this was our second time, and so we definitely wanted to take the steps to make it a more successful marriage because it wasn't our first time.
Yeah.
And we both knew what we didn't want to tolerate. And so uh going into that and having those hard conversations, I think was very, very instrumental as to why we're still together. Because we took the time to actually ask those hard questions. So that's very, very true when you say that, how can I be better for you? We both have said that to one another. And I think that's something that I never had before. A lot of marriages don't ask that. They're
Mhm.
so focused on the kids, they're so focused on their finances, they're so focused on
Mhm.
everything else but wanting to be better for one another. And so I think that whenever we met at the conference, that's that's kind of like our time to I guess rekindle our the reason why we're together, and have that purpose behind our marriage.
Mhm.
And so I think that definitely is a big part as to why we do what we do, is because it brings us together.
When
In
you're married, scripture is very clear. Two become one. Like you're one. And you have to, it's no different than, we talk about core five a lot inside of what we do in our mastermind, my conference, my collective, my online group: faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. Your faith, health, and relationships are the foundation of who you are as a human being. Faith, number one, your health, number two, and that's physical health, spiritual health, mental health. And then your relationships are right behind that. And if you're in a marriage or in a relationships are hard. They're not easy. So you have to be in agreement with each other to where you come in and go, okay, if there's anything that I'm missing in my life, I want to give you permission to come say something to me. If I say something to you that hurts you, I want you to come say something to me because I don't want to hurt you. As a man, your husband mentioned it just a minute ago in Ephesians. It says husband, everybody talks about wives submit to your husbands. Well, really the linchpin to that scripture is husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave his life for it. So like as husbands or as men, we're called to lay down our lives for our wives and our families. And a wife who is on a journey of becoming the best version of herself, she is aware of areas or aware of the probability of her having areas in her heart that need to be worked on, because we all do. It's not just her, it's everybody. I used to say at my church, hey, welcome to Life Church. My name's Ken. I'm the lead pastor here. Man, so glad you're here. Listen, we always say, like, there's no perfect people allowed. And if you don't think you have any issues, well, that's your issue. Like, we all have issues.
Yep, we sure do.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, I'll tell her all the time, you know what? I'm not afraid to go sit in jail. I'm not afraid to one day have to lose my wife if it meant protecting my wife, if it meant protecting my family. She'll make the comment, well, not that I want you to die. I'm like, well, if God intended me to die protecting you, then that was his purpose in that time. It meant that he still has plans for you, but it means that it's time for me to go home.
Yeah.
We're not to question the way he organizes things as much as we self-consciously question him all the time. Even those that are in the highest amount of faith, we still have questions. It doesn't mean that we're judging God for those decisions, but as being a human being, we're built with the intent of free will and cognitive suggestions.
Yeah.
We suggest in our brain, well, if God loved me, then he wouldn't do that to me. Well, if I did this, do you think maybe he wouldn't do that? I mean, that's not how it works in life. God is all knowing and all seeing. So, I mean, if he destines you for your lights to go out a certain way, it's because his will be fulfilled and practically act as in its own prophecy. Your family will fulfill your prophecy as time goes on. That's where I struggled a lot at first, but eventually I picked up the broken pieces because it's said that you'll fall in love 3 times in your life. The first one is meant to be when you're really young, whenever you don't have a care in the world. It's to kind of set you up for the toils that you're going to go through. The second one is going to hurt you. It will hurt you because when you go through that second breakup or marriage, for some people, it just depends on who it is. It mentally has set you on a track. Okay, you know what? I am now at the point in life as a man where I know what I'm going to accept, what I'm not going to accept. And the third love is supposed to yoke you. You are supposed to be evenly yoked and become as one. That is the relationship where you have learned everything about your partner, your spouse. You have learned everything as far as I'm not going to take this in life. But once you and that person reach that high spirituality with each other, you realize that God intended you to meet that person all along. He had to prepare you, just like men. We prepare for battle. We prepare for war. What the wives, they prepare the children. They help raise the children up to be copacetic, to be compassionate, to be understanding. Whereas men, we're a little bit more brutal. Not saying that a man can't.
Well, we have to go out and face the world, man. We're not cavemen anymore. But you still eat what you kill. I mean, it's still the same. It's still the same format, but now it's just maybe in business, in your profession, all of those things. You still go out and you're going to have to add value and you're going to have to slay some giants in your life, just like David did. You know, the one thing I love in that whole passage, that David versus Goliath, I think the thing that gave David the edge was when he said, "Is there not a cause? Is there not a cause?" And as a dad, husband, father, all those things, I mean, literally, it's got to be, is there not a cause?
You know, it ties into a study that I did, you know, because mental health awareness is something I speak on all the time. I may do a lot of political lives and I may do a lot about, you know, cars and what I'm very passionate about, but I'm very passionate about mental health.
Hmm.
So this ties in with mental health and Father's Day. So as of last year, you know, there was a study done by a national survey, and they collected that 660,000 men will kill themselves every year.
Hmm.
That is 2 every minute.
Hmm.
That's
You know,
just
the number I heard yesterday that blew me away. Just heard this yesterday. I decided to go on my phone and look at it. 486 psychologists committed suicide last year.
Wow.
486 psychologists. The people that are supposed to understand this. 80% of all suicides are men.
Mhm.
Out of that, 3/4, almost 80% of that 80% are white men. Like, it's, I mean, you want to talk about an epidemic. It is an epidemic. White men far exceed you can take all the other categories of people, combine them, and it's still not even half of the number of white guys when it comes to white men, when it comes to committing suicide. It's a huge, huge, huge issue in America.
Yeah, you know, that there seems to be, you know, an attack on our spirituality more or less nowadays. You know, people are attacking the name of God rather than embracing
Mhm.
it. And then,
Mhm.
you know, you get these unwanted and uncontrolled behaviors like the riots,
Mhm.
you know, using his name in vain, wanting to murder people, to commit
Yeah.
these violent acts.
Well,
And
let's be really honest. We haven't done a great job as the church, especially in America,
Oh yeah.
not giving people a reason not to feel that way. I literally got a text message today from somebody. I don't even know if I have it right here. If I have it, I'm going to read it to you. I literally just got this text message from a friend this morning, and I deleted it. It basically said, I was raised in a, I was raised, here it is right here. Let me read this. This is huge, man, because when we talk about the culture in America, I mean, really the problem, a lot of the problem is the way we've handled ourselves. Listen, the enemy doesn't have to come after the church as bad as we think he does, because we do a great job of not presenting Christ and the gospel the way that we're supposed to.
Yep.
She said, I spent a good part of my life in faith-based organizations, went to Christian schools, 1st through 12th, undergraduate, graduate, and then worked at Christian universities for 7+ years. Accepted Christ when I was a junior in high school. And at the same time, I watched a large sector of the evangelical movement commoditize and politicize Christ in ways that breaks my heart. The psychological damage done to marginalized populations is not something I can unsee. I'm currently deconstructing my faith and dissecting what I thought was true my whole life. My rebuild is slow, and I am on my journey.
Yeah.
I got that. I actually got that last night at 9:02. Like, it's, we blame saying things on the enemy as well, the is he coming out to the church? Of course he is. But a good portion of the church, he doesn't have to come after. He doesn't have to come after because we've done a terrible job at presenting who Christ is.
Mhm.
I had somebody say this to me, I just read you that text message I got yesterday. All my whole life, Christian schools, Christian college, 7 years on a staff. And what they've seen is, and this is my plea and my passion, in what I do. Do I love Jesus? Man, 1000%. Do I love the church? Yes, I love the church. Does the church have issues? 1000% it does. Because what we've done in the church in America is, man, we've become the worst critics we've become the biggest critics of the people who hurt the worst. Let me say it that way. We've become the biggest critics of people who hurt the worst. Do you know who Jesus got mad at in scripture? I have my Bible right here. Do you know who Jesus got mad at in scripture? Y'all want to take a shot at that one?
The religious leaders.
The only people. It's the only people he got pissed off at was religious people.
Mhm.
The woman, listen, think about this. The woman caught in adultery. They drug her out in front of Jesus naked, humiliated. They get around her, and each of those religious leaders have stones. They're ready to stone her. And what did they say to Jesus? They're like, yep, now what should we do? What does the law of Moses command that we should do? And Jesus just looks at him and he goes, any of you that's without sin, you cast the first stone. And what the scripture's very clear. They drop their stones, what? From oldest to youngest. And they left. So who did that leave there? Jesus and that woman they caught in adultery. Jesus, by his own words and the law of Moses in the Torah, the Old Testament, Jesus and the law said, listen, he had a right, not only a right, but an obligation under the law to start that stoning of that woman. So, and here's the thing most people miss in that story. If he started the stoning, then it was legally permissible for all of the other people there to enter into that stoning and kill that young woman. And what did Jesus do? He looked at her and he said, where are your condemners? Where are the guys that condemned you? They're not here. He said, listen, but now he was very clear. He said, neither do I condemn you. He showed her grace and he showed her mercy. And then he said, go and sin no more. He was uber clear with his message, but he was never angry and upset and violent, or if you don't do this, God's going to listen. That's not who God is. You guys, y'all have not been to my Create conference, have you?
No.
In Atlanta. So I host the #1 faith-based entrepreneur conference in America. Amazing friends like John Maxwell, Ed Milet, Erwin McManus, Jesse Itzler, Brenda Bouchard, Gary Brecka, Vic Keller, some of the most phenomenal faith-based entrepreneurs and communicators and pastors in the world. When you walk in the building here in Atlanta for our conference every year, all throughout the building, I had these giant floor stickers. They're 2 foot by 4 foot. The very first two you see when you walk into registration, I have 2 of them in this huge foyer. The very first two you say a sentence and a quote that I said every single Sunday when I pastored. God's love for you isn't predicated on your performance. He loves you because he created you as a son or a daughter. I remember one Sunday morning, my 15-year-old, who will be 16 in about 3 weeks, and she's 5'11". She's taller than her dad now by about a half an inch and is uber proud of it. She was about 3. And 3 or 4 days before this Sunday service, I get up and I walk in and I look at her sister's door, and there's Sharpie marker all over the door. She didn't write on it with a dry erase. She used a daggum Sharpie marker on her sister's door. Well, I had an idea. We're in worship. We're about 2 or 3 songs into worship, and I had them get her out of the nursery. She's like 3. I had a chair set on the stage, hundreds of people in my auditorium. And I said, bring her up here. And so the band's playing behind me. She's looking, she's like, because she loved being on my stage, but she'd never been on stage when there was people in the room and she knew it was service. And I brought her up and I sat in the seat and I said, come here, baby. And she came up, she crawled to my lap. And I looked at her and I said, I can't believe I did this. I said, did you write on your sister's door this week with a Sharpie marker? And guys, She looked at me like, Dad, I can't even believe you're asking me this question in front of all these people. And she looked at me and you know how kids are. Tears welled up. I said, baby, you're not in trouble. Daddy loves you. Did you write on your sisters? She goes, yes, sir, I did. And I said, and I looked at the crowd and I said, and guess what, guys? She's still welcomed into her father's presence. What she does and her actions and her behaviors don't dictate whether or not the father loves her. I love her. Why? Because she's my daughter.
Yeah.
And there is nothing anybody can do about that.
That's awesome. You know, as a preacher's kid, I think it's very, very interesting to see how the church responds to a lot of things. I think because both me and my husband have had the church hurt us, I think we definitely are a lot more faith oriented when it comes to accepting the broken, because we were broken ourselves. And so we're definitely excited for that Global Warrior Conference in Florida, because it is our chance to not only share our story and our hurt and our pain, but show people that you can turn your purpose into you can turn your pain into your purpose. And so I think having that ability is very, very unique, and you can't do that without God, for sure. But to close out, definitely give us any kind of last words or any events that you have coming up, and then the Modernino is going to close this out for us.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to publish my new book. It's called Proximity is a Cheat Code, and it's about relationships. It's about how do I build relationships with the right people. The whole premise of my book, it's a 14-bit proxy code. So if you use a key fob or a key card to get in a door, there's a 14-bit or 24-bit proxy code that's in that card. And that frequency that goes out, all 14 bits have to match. And when it does, it opens the door. And anytime a door opens, it does what? It gives you access to a new area in your life. And relationships are the same way. And the number one frequency that people are looking for, and I've got all the scientific data in my book, the number one frequency people are looking for is the frequency of authenticity.
Yeah.
And authenticity is when you have a deep understanding of a subject and you also have a deep passion and a desire for that subject. And when you do that and you have that desire, man, there is the frequency. Literally, you emit an electronic frequency that goes out. It's the highest recorded, and it's also the most sought after. So if I had anything to leave people today, it's that. And the motto that, man, I try to live my life by. Great leaders want something for people, not from people. Like, can you live your, and I mentioned this when we were in San Antonio. Can you live your life in such a way? Can you live your life in such a way where you authentically and truly want something for people and not from people? It's huge.
Awesome.
Well, we do want to thank Ken for taking time out of his busy schedule. He's traveling a lot. We'll actually be starting our traveling journeys starting in September all the way through March. We'll be traveling off and on. We're actually going to Costa Rica in February. We're going to have our actual wedding in Costa Rica. So that's going to be.
Where in Costa Rica are you guys going?
We're still trying to figure out the venue. Her dad is going to be helping us out.
Yeah, it's a resort. So we'll definitely live stream it for our friends.
I love Costa Rica.
Yeah, we'll definitely be inviting people to come out. They can actually be there.
Yeah.
But also, leading up to this, it inspired me to start my own ministry. Yeah. And now me and my wife are now the proud owners of 343 Ministries. Both of us are ordained ministers, but I still wanted to keep going further. And so I'm going to continue to keep going and pushing. So 343 Ministries is now giving birth to 343 Life Group starting in the fall of this year. So we're really excited about that. Real estate investment classes for Arkansas agents are going to be every Thursday starting next month. And then also one of our great sponsors, Authors R Us, is still accepting submissions for the devotional book. It will be a bilingual book when written by business owners and leaders from around the world. So, you know, we are really preaching on that because this is probably going to be our biggest devotional yet.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to become a best-selling author with this devotional. It's definitely something that we've been excited for, been kind of waiting on. Also, you know, we plan on trying to get more and more new guests as time goes on. Hope to see you in some more events.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm pretty sure that Rob has some more coming up soon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta's not that far.
Where you guys are in Tennessee?
No, we're in Arkansas, but
Oh, Arkansas. I got you.
yeah, but I can be in Georgia in less than 16 hours.
There you go. Well, January 30th, 31st, and February the 1st, we'll be right here in Alpharetta, Georgia, in the Atlanta area for our Create Conference, #1 faith-based entrepreneur conference in the country.
Is that going to
3
be on a
days?
weekend?
It's a Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday.
You know what? I think I can get the time off. I think we can fly out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd
for
be,
sure.
I
you
miss
would have an
Atlanta.
absolute blast. Yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah, our wedding is gonna be on Valentine's Day week.
Okay.
So I'm excited. We'll definitely send you an invite.
That'd be great.
But thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you.
We appreciate everything you do, all the videos that you do, everything that you do for the world. We're very, very excited that we got the chance to have you on, because
you guys are amazing.
we always like to invite specific people just like yourself. And so thank you so much for your time, and thank you again to all of our sponsors and anybody who made this happen. And stay tuned for our next episode. So see you later, and take care. God bless, and peace be with you.